This is a high-tech shroud, just put it on the human body. You can see the inside of the body after knowing what happens to the deceased. When they are deep underground, the fruit shroud can even be connected to a mobile app, and you can check the situation in your loved one's grave at any time. It's really the most perverse invention of the 21st century, but the male protagonist Caius is very obsessed with this program. He is a creative businessman and also a grief-stricken widower. Caius is deeply trapped in the pain of losing his wife and can't extricate himself. This negative emotion even affects his teeth, causing Caius to suffer a lot from toothache. In order to get out of the haze, Caius starts to force himself to go on blind dates. The place where he meets his blind date for the first time is chosen to be a restaurant next to the cemetery. Caius is wealthy. He bought part of the cemetery. This restaurant is also one of his businesses. The blind date notices that there is a set of metallic-colored equipment in the display cabinet of the restaurant. Caius introduces this thing is the fruit shroud. When his beloved wife Aurora was about to be buried, Caius had a strong urge to lie in the coffin with her, because Caius couldn't bear to let his wife stay alone in the dark. Once the deceased is buried in the soil, he will never know what will happen to them. The blind date is curious. Then, why didn't you cremate your wife? Caius explains Aurora was a devout Jewish, so she wouldn't be cremated after death. For Jews, the body must disintegrate slowly. Only by letting it die out naturally can the deceased truly bid farewell to the world. He is praising the funeral culture to the blind date, and even leads him to visit his wife's grave. That high-tech cemetery is just behind the restaurant. All the tombstones in it are equipped with an electronic screen. As long as the relatives download the application program developed by Caius, they can see the situation inside the coffin. This is the so-called fruit shroud. The system is equipped with a surround camera. It's still a wide-angle lens. It's just high-resolution zoom. The eye lens can also be rotated 3 times. Observe the state of the body in all directions. For Caius, Caius is immersed in the memory of Wang Qi. That experience is as if he himself was also lying in the coffin. His spirit, his eyes never left his wife's side for a moment. Your faces have already turned extremely ugly. But Caius, who was fully focused on his wife, didn't notice at all such a state of total immersion. It really seems a bit anti-human in the eyes of outsiders. Just then Caius' gaze fixed on the nasal cavity of his wife. There seemed to be some strange hyperplasia there. This fanaticism for the corpse instantly scared away the blind date partner. In the evening, the dentist sent over the dental X-ray films taken of Aurora when she was still alive. The films were sent over. Perhaps he wanted to use the things of the deceased to soothe Caius' overwhelming grief a little. It's just that the dentist's action is really rather strange. The next day Caius went to meet his wife's younger sister. The younger sister-in-law once said that it was the doctors in the hospital who caused Aurora's death. At that time Caius knew she was talking nonsense and didn't take it seriously. But when he examined the body at the cemetery yesterday, Aurora's strange nose made Caius think of what his younger sister-in-law had said again. He was desperately eager to know why did the younger sister-in-law think the doctor was harming Aurora. The younger sister-in-law explained the hospital kept making her elder sister receive experimental treatments, but they didn't mention a word about the risks of the treatment. They completely treated Aurora as a guinea pig. After hearing this, Caius brought out the photos of the body, hoping that his younger sister-in-law, who graduated from a medical school, what exactly was in Aurora's nose. Caius speculated it might be a polyp. It's just that it carbonized as time passed and remained in the deceased's nasal cavity. At the very least, it might be some kind of fruit-based program, which caused a certain degree of radiation to the body. After all, Aurora's bones didn't decay at all. They were all in a solid state, but the younger sister-in-law looked very certain. She bluntly said that it looked like a tracker, and she firmly believed that the doctor had deliberately hidden it inside to track Caius' whereabouts. Caius, full of doubt, said, "Why would the doctor want to track my location?" The younger sister-in-law mentioned that Aurora had said some things before her death. Caius hurriedly asked what exactly she had said, but the younger sister-in-law was evasive. She talked around the topic and refused to answer directly. Just at this moment, Caius received an anonymous message. He learned that someone had broken into the cemetery and damaged those special tombs. He was extremely anxious and rushed to the scene to check. The staff helplessly informed him that the cemetery's surveillance cameras were damaged and they couldn't capture the appearance of the perpetrator. Now, including his wife's 9 tombstones, have all been deliberately damaged, almost destroyed. Caius tried to confirm his wife's condition through the camera, but was shocked to find that the fruit department system had been hacked. That night, Caius invited his sister-in-law's ex-husband Malcolm. Malcolm is an excellent software designer. Caius hoped that he could help repair the fruit department system. After that, Caius woke up the AI assistant modeled after his wife and asked it to help make an appointment with Dr. Maximus. Dr. Maximus is a renowned oncology expert specializing in the treatment of vagus nerve cancer. He was also Aurora's attending doctor before her death. After Tess explained all this, he fell into a deep sleep due to physical and mental exhaustion, and Malcolm stayed up all night. He struggled to explore in the system locked by the hacker. Finally, he discovered that the encryption program contained a large number of symbols like mud patterns. These characters were actually related to the Vikings' funerals, and the hacker's server was located in Iceland. Caius couldn't help but think of the argument he had with an environmental protection organization in Iceland. The organization believed that the fruit fertilizer was radioactive. They had always opposed Caius' promotion of high technology. Could it be that these people were planning revenge? Shortly after, the AI assistant sent a notification explaining that it couldn't get in touch with Dr. Maximus. It seemed that he had gone to Reykjavik to attend an international chemotherapy conference. Reykjavik is the capital of Iceland. Was this just too much of a coincidence? He planned to go to the hospital later and first have a chat with Dr. Liu, who worked with Maximus. During this time, Malcolm had to tell Caius that the hacker's technology was extremely powerful. He was locked out of the system and couldn't get in at all. He instructed Malcolm to keep the purpose confidential for now, and also keep the news of the damage a secret. They were already regarded as technological heretics by the outside world. If the news of the damage to their purpose leaked out, it would surely cause a lot of controversy. He went to the cemetery to observe the damaged tombstones. He found that the damaged tombstones were targeted. It seemed that the perpetrator was looking for a specific target. In this case, it couldn't have been done by the Environmental Protection Organization. If they were out for revenge, they would surely attack indiscriminately, instead of choosing specific tombstones to damage just then. Malcolm noticed the cables under the tombstone of Aurora. There were obvious signs of decomposition. At this moment, Caius was even more certain that the perpetrator was targeting Aurora. That night, an Asian female client came to the door. She said that her Hungarian husband was terminally ill. The husband didn't want to be cremated, so she wanted to entrust Caius to handle his funeral arrangements. Speaking of it, the husband was also a big shot. In 1956, at the age of 11, the husband, full of infinite longing for a new life, resolutely fled Hungary and set foot on the journey to Canada. On the foreign land, he started from scratch with his extraordinary courage and unremitting effort. In the 8th year after arriving in Canada, he successfully founded a small enterprise. In the 15 years after its establishment, this enterprise was like a sapling thriving in spring. It developed steadily through wind and rain and seized opportunities. Time quietly came to 1980. The husband's business ambition further expanded. He was no longer satisfied with a small piece of land. He immediately set out to travel all over Canada to expand the business. Another long 43 years passed. The husband, with extraordinary perseverance and outstanding business wisdom, gradually transformed the original small company into an international enterprise group that spans multiple countries and has great influence. Now the team led by the husband in the field of electric vehicle technology firmly holds a leading position. It has become a shining presence in the industry. However, the husband, who had been struggling abroad all his life, always had his hometown on his mind. The thought of returning to his roots became stronger and stronger. As he grew older, it became even more intense. He was full of hope that after his death, he could return to his hometown of Budapest and be laid to rest in that familiar land. But the husband had a question in his heart that he couldn't let go of, so he asked his wife to convey a message to the Asian woman. She took out her phone and played the recording that the husband had recorded in advance, because the husband mentioned that the Hungarian government is very likely not to allow the Fruit Affairs Department system to enter its territory. The reason is that the government is worried that the technology used by Caius will be controlled by the Russian military intelligence agency, and then the Fruit Affairs Department system will be reduced to a part of the Russian electronic intelligence surveillance network. When Caius heard these words, he felt a little uneasy in his heart. After all, the purpose of Aurora had just been hacked not long ago. This matter was still like a dark cloud hanging over his heart. He didn't dare to delay for a moment. He rushed back to consult the technicians. He was eager to know if the husband's concerns were reasonable. The technicians patiently introduced to him that the Fruit Affairs Department system will connect each tomb to the ground to build a special network. The original intention of this network is to provide convenience for all those who come to mourn services. It enables them to receive customer instructions anytime and anywhere, and accurately transmit the images to the customer's mobile phone. However, if this cemetery network is unfortunately maliciously tampered with by hackers, it will indeed lead to extremely serious consequences. Because it is connected to the mobile phone of each customer, it can track any place the customer has been to after leaving the cemetery, thus playing a monitoring role. However, the technicians also reassured Caius. At present, the Fruit Affairs Department system has not been widely popularized. The covered area is very small. Judging from the current situation, it is really unlikely to be targeted by the Russian intelligence agency. After hearing this, Caius couldn't help but think of the incident of his wife's tombstone being hacked. He was full of doubts. There are numerous tempting international networks in the world. Why did they specifically choose this small cemetery of his own? Caius thought about it from all angles but couldn't figure it out. In desperation, he had to leave this matter to his subordinates to conduct an in-depth investigation. The next day, he hurried to the hospital to talk to Dr. Lu. Dr. Lu briefly examined the bone images of Aurora and then gave a professional judgment. He believed that this was just a common reaction of the body to cancer and chemotherapy. After all, nerve cancer is an extremely unusual disease. It is reasonable for the body to have such changes. There are always new growths on patients. Caius, however, thought that these growths appeared after his wife's death. He wanted to take a look at Aurora's previous scan materials. Dr. Lu first denied Caius' speculation. Once the bone is dead, the cancer is also dead. How can a dead person have new growth? Once the bone is dead, the cancer is also dead. How can there be new growth on a dead person? Then, he explained further, all the scan files are with Maximus. However, the other party has just divorced his wife and hasn't come back to work yet. Dr. Lu asked Caius to send over the high-resolution version of the image. He would study it carefully. In case there was any breakthrough, he would contact Caius immediately. Just then, the AI assistant popped up and said the Asian client wanted to continue discussing the issue about the husband and set the meeting place at the hotel where she was staying. Caius acted in a businesslike manner. As soon as they met, he promised to solve the problem that the Hungarian government was worried about as soon as possible. Unexpectedly, the Asian woman suddenly asked, "Can I touch your face?" For a blind person, only by touching can they tell what the other person looks like. She hadn't touched anyone's face for a long time. The husband had refused to have contact with his wife since he got sick. Since the client had said that much, Caius certainly couldn't refuse her request. And he could also understand her feelings. When Aurora got sick, her immune system collapsed. Any contact might have caused her to get infected. Caius hadn't had any intimate contact with the opposite sex for many years. At this moment, the Asian woman kept caressing his face. The ambiguous atmosphere gradually heated up. The two of them naturally had a relationship. Afterwards, the Asian woman reminded Caius, "Don't trust your AI assistant too much." When my assistant received its message, he found a strange string of codes. That AI assistant is not a completely independent artificial intelligence entity. Someone is controlling it from behind. The Asian woman's words set off alarm bells for Caius. After he got home, he turned off the AI assistant and turned off his mobile phone. He rummaged through the cabinet and took out an old mobile phone to use. These days, Caius has been getting very close to the Asian woman. Perhaps it's because both of them are very lonely. For Caius, the process of his wife being devastated by the disease was too painful. Her body was torn apart by the doctors. An arm was amputated here. 2 steel nails were inserted there. Although the Asian woman also has an eye problem, at least she has a healthy body, which can bring Caius a great sense of security. One day, the two of them met their sister-in-law while taking a walk. The other person's face looked a bit strange when she saw the Asian woman. Caius didn't take this matter to heart. Unexpectedly, the sister-in-law came to his door that night. She seemed to be resentful that Caius had found a new love. And she also revealed a crucial piece of information. Maximus used to be Aurora's boyfriend, and the two of them were also in a teacher-student relationship. Maximus taught at the university where Aurora studied. Although he was older, he was very talented. He easily attracted Aurora's attention. This matter made Caius very jealous. It can be seen from the perverted fruit affairs department system he invented that Caius has a perverted desire to control his wife's body. And now he thinks that Maximus had Aurora before him. And now he feels that Maximus had access to Aurora's body again when she was on her deathbed. Although the other person was just studying Aurora in the capacity of a doctor. Even so, Caius still finds it hard to accept the reality. What saddens him the most is that after they got married, Aurora has always kept in touch with Maximus. Caius also found out that whenever he was on a business trip, Aurora would go out with Maximus. They had lunch together and strolled in the park. This made Caius can't help but suspect that his wife was very likely to have betrayed him. Just think, Aurora was such a weak person. Why would she allow Maximus to perform various experimental surgeries? Maybe she was blinded by love. The more Caius thought about it, the more reasonable it seemed. Seeing this, the sister-in-law changed the subject. She asked Caius if he knew why she got divorced. At that moment, he was surrounded by an indescribable atmosphere. The sister-in-law was sitting right opposite him. When she opened her mouth, the tone became more and more ambiguous. Caius looked up. The lines of the sister-in-law's face, the contours, and even the charm in her every smile and frown were almost exactly the same as those of his late wife Aurora. Caius was not a heartless person. Such close contact made his heart skip a beat. Instantly, the line of defense of his reason began to crumble under this gentle offensive. In the end, he still couldn't resist the temptation and fell headlong into the tender trap carefully woven by the sister-in-law. However, the next day, Caius' phone screen lit up. It was a message from Malcolm. Malcolm said that he had spent a long time just like struggling through a thicket of thorns and finally succeeded in cracking some of the footage invaded by hackers. Malcolm mentioned in the message that those corpses were in the same situation as Aurora. There were actually a large number of growths on the bones. To verify whether this was a common phenomenon. Malcolm also took great pains to examine those graves that were intact, and found that there was no sign of proliferation at all in the bodies inside. From this, he inferred that it was a deliberate act of vandalism, and the purpose of it was by no means just revenge or some trivial matter, but there was another hidden reason. It is highly likely that they were trying to conceal this strange phenomenon of the Bode's disease. When he saw this message, his heart, which had been immersed in a state of comfort, instantly tensed up. He quickly activated the Sorrow Assistant again and gave it an order to contact the families of the 9 deceased whose graves had been vandalized, trying to find something in common among these seemingly unrelated people, hoping to uncover the truth behind this series of mysterious events. With this, but just then an accident occurred. The Sorrow Assistant seemed to have been bewitched by some strange magic. Its interface, which should have been operating normally according to the program, now actually wobbled and showed the appearance of a broken and naked body. It told Caius in a mechanical but also eerie voice that Maximus had always kept the amputated remains of Aurora, and that the 9 deceased who had been buried had all received treatment from Maximus during their lifetimes. Caius was stunned by this sudden situation. He was so shocked that his mouth dropped open. He tried to turn off the AI assistant, but no matter how he operated, the assistant wouldn't respond. It just kept playing on its own that creepy picture and voice. He was extremely angry. He knew very well that this hydraulic application was designed with Malcolm's help. Now that such a strange situation had occurred, Malcolm surely couldn't get away with it. He rushed to Malcolm's house in a hurry. Standing at the door, he raised his hand and knocked hard. The sound of the knocking was quite distinct in the silent street. But after knocking for a long time, there was no response from inside the house. No one came to answer the door. Malcolm seemed to have vanished into thin air. Caius was filled with anger and confusion. With nowhere to vent, he could only turn around and leave helplessly. Fortunately, after getting home, Caius learned the truth from his sister-in-law. It turned out that Malcolm had always known that his wife Aurora had a crush on her brother-in-law Caius. Their marriage fell apart to a large extent. It was because of this matter. After Aurora passed away that year, Malcolm's heart was filled with feelings of suspicion and paranoia. He always felt that there was a secret between Caius and Aurora. He was convinced that there was something unseemly between them. He firmly believed that Caius had an affair with his deceased wife. So he carefully designed this AI assistant for his longing for his wife. He gave it to Caius but secretly inserted a monitoring program. Through this program, Malcolm could freely hack into Caius' mobile phone and computer. Even the navigation system of Caius' car was within his surveillance range. He could keep track of Caius' every move at any time. Not only that, Malcolm also confessed to his sister-in-law that he was the one who deliberately vandalized the cemetery behind the restaurant. His purpose was to damage Caius' property and take revenge on Caius. But now here comes the problem. What exactly was the proliferation on the corpses? What was going on with that? Caius temporarily suppressed the anger in his heart towards Malcolm. He first set about dealing with the vandalized cemetery. He arranged for people to repair the cemetery after it was restored to its original state. He went to meet Dr. Liu. Dr. Liu received the high-definition images sent by Caius some time ago. After that, he handed them over to the physicists in the Department of Radiology for research. After a thorough and meticulous analysis, the result was astonishing. Those so-called proliferations on the bones of the deceased didn't actually exist at all. It was that someone used superb technology to create an extremely delicate layered animation and added it to the overlay coating. Surprisingly, no matter which angle the image was rotated from or how many times the image was magnified, those electronic layers of the proliferations could match perfectly with the images captured by the camera on the corpse. They fit so well that visually it seemed as if those proliferations were really growing on the bones of the deceased. Dr. Liu told Caius with great certainty that there was nothing wrong with these 9 corpses themselves. The problem lay with the camera on the corpse. Someone had tampered with it. When Caius heard this, the first person that came to his mind was Malcolm. He returned to his car feeling extremely frustrated. As soon as he sat down, he found that Malcolm had hacked into the car navigation system again. On the navigation screen, the self-driving route was set to a certain forest. At this moment, he was full of the thought of having a good confrontation with Malcolm, so he really wanted to confront Malcolm, so he simply let the car follow the preset route and take him to that mysterious forest. At the entrance of the forest, Caius saw Malcolm. Malcolm looked flustered. He was acting rather neurotic. As soon as he saw Caius, he quickly dragged him deeper into the forest. When they reached a more secluded place, Malcolm stopped with a terrified look. He told Caius that he was being hunted down by the Chinese. Upon hearing this, Caius was completely bewildered. This film had set up so many mysterious events before. In the end, it brought up the common China-Russia conspiracy theory in European and American movies. Again, the China-Russia conspiracy theory. Malcolm continued that in order to take revenge on Caius for seducing his wife, he did hire 2 Russian hackers to vandalize the cemetery. But who would have thought that during the operation those 2 hackers discovered that there was a certain cloud technology in the corpse monitoring device and immediately informed their government. Now both China and Russia mistakenly believe that Caius' high-tech project is a means for the West to establish a secret surveillance network, so they are hunting him down everywhere. Listening to Malcolm's confused account, Caius was almost confused. He couldn't help but question Malcolm aloud. Why did you tamper with the cameras on those 9 tombstones? Malcolm explained that you can't trust Dr. Lu. He and Maximus have received a lot of money from the Chinese. They have conducted unethical experiments on patients. The claim that the cameras were tampered with must be Dr. Lu lying to you. It must be Dr. Lu who is lying to you. Caius really didn't expect that. He just had a bit of a necrophilia tendency and just wanted to use an electronic tombstone to spy on his wife. How could it have led to an international dispute? Seeing that he still didn't believe him, Malcolm simply showed his 2 severed fingers, saying that they were cut off by the Chinese. He went back to tell his sister-in-law the whole story of what had happened. Unexpectedly, the sister-in-law exposed Malcolm as a conspirator. Those 2 fingers of his were severed during a high school handicraft class. It's just that because he was good at disguising, no one had ever noticed his finger disability. The sister-in-law earnestly told Caius, your grief has made you fall into such an absurd rabbit hole since Aurora is already dead. What's the point of delving deeper into this matter? The sister-in-law's words pointed out the main theme of this film. The film, with all kinds of pseudo-suspense and unreliable narration together, builds this story paved with falsehoods. All the technology is worrying. All the conspiracies are rushing towards Caius. But in the end, he still didn't find the answer, because these conspiracy theories and doubts are nothing more than means for Caius to escape the pain of losing his wife. The protagonist starts from mourning. Following the suspenseful framework of a detective story, he gradually reaches a state of complete powerlessness and emptiness. Some artificial intelligence, technological control, and even political conspiracies are all tools to highlight Caius' extreme obsession with the deceased. The director Cronenberg goes around such a big circle just to remind the world the unpredictable thoughts of the living outside the grave are no more reliable than the gradually decaying bodies of the dead inside the grave. Excessive mourning often turns into crazy depression. Rather than blindly searching for the truth and insisting on solving the mystery beneath the grave, it's better to give up the morbid desire to pry so as to let the dead rest in peace.